and welcome to the cold and flu season. Perhaps you look to the winter with a sense of dreading the sinus headaches, dreading the sinus congestion, that feeling your whole head, your ears plugged up. It doesn't have to be that way. Yoga teaches us that the mind is an incredibly powerful tool in living in this body. Western medicine is very well acquainted with the idea that the mind can make us sick, the idea of psychosomatic illness. What the Western world isn't as familiar with is the idea that the mind can make us well. And that's where yoga comes in to demonstrate to us firsthand the mind's capacity to radically change the body, to help us find that state of optimal vitality, optimal wellness, through harnessing the power of the mind. The sinus clearing meditation we're going to work on today harnesses the power of the mind to help create that greater sense of flow in the various sinuses in the skull. When we find sinus congestion or sinus headache, generally what we found is stagnation, that there's a lack of movement in the skull. Through the power of the mind, through the steady rhythmic breathing, you can restart that healthy movement of the skull bones that's going to help flush the sinuses free. So I'm glad you joined me here for this meditation. Optimally, it's done in a seated position. If you find that your back gets tired, your hips get sore, sitting for very long, you might want to do this meditation lying on your back. If you choose to do this supine, do make sure that your head is supported by either a pillow or folded blanket. You want to have the forehead at least half an inch higher up in the air than your cheekbones are. So please make yourself comfortable, close your eyes, and draw your attention to the breathing. And in general, when we start to focus on the breathing, we bring our attention to the inhale. Rather, bring your attention to the exhale. See this exhale all the way through to completion. Then you'll find there's a silent point before the inhale starts. That's the technique of full commitment exhale. If you find that the exhale immediately becomes an inhale, that exhale probably wasn't fully complete. Full commitment exhale. Pause. Then the inhale. And through the steady rhythmic breathing, you'll feel how the belly rises and falls. Observing how the rib cage, like the belly, there's a rise and a fall of the rib cage. In the steady rhythmic movement of breathing should also be occurring in the skull. When we've got sinus congestion, sinus headache, that movement isn't in the skull. So the power of your mind, the power of your mental focus, like a searchlight, and shining the light of your awareness to the frontal sinuses. The frontal sinuses, there's a left side and a right side directly beneath your eyebrows. And at first we bring the awareness to the eyebrows and it doesn't feel like much is happening. Through regular practice, through steady awareness of the rhythmic rise and fall of your breathing, you'll start to feel a movement in the eyebrows. Granted, it's a small movement. As you inhale, the feeling that the eyebrows broaden away from each other. And with the exhale, that feeling how they release back toward the bridge of the nose. And as those frontal sinuses start to open up, it'll feel as though your eyebrows continue to broaden. Drawing your awareness down to the cheekbones and how each cheekbone, the left one, the right one, contain a sinus. These are some of the biggest sinuses, about the size of your thumb. And like the belly rises and falls with the breathing, as your rib bones rise and fall with the breathing, in the same manner as the eyebrows expand and release with the breathing, so too the cheekbones expand and release every breath you take. And like the forehead, the eyebrow sinuses, as you start to recreate the healthy respiratory movement of the skull bones, it'll feel as though the cheekbones start to broaden, creating more space for your nose. Drawing your awareness to the mastoid bones. The mastoid bones, the large bones immediately behind and beneath the ears. There's a left mastoid and a right mastoid. And the mastoid bones at first a little more elusive to feel that respiratory movement. Regular practice, patient focus, you'll start to feel that those mastoid bones, inhale, they expand, a sense of broadening. Exhale, they release. And over time, how the back of the skull, right at the base of the skull, the back of the skull, starts to broaden. More space for those mastoid sinuses. Each inhale, the belly, the chest expands, rises. In each exhale, the belly, the chest releases. It's a smaller, subtler movement, but you'll find that same expand, release in the eyebrows, in the cheekbones, and the bones behind the ears. And drawing the awareness to the sinuses deeper in the skull, starting with the ethmoid sinuses. Starting at the bridge of the nose, from right between the eyebrows, the bridge of the nose. Penetrate your awareness deeper in your skull a couple inches. And there sits the ethmoid bone. And like a boat in the water, how that boat rises and falls with the currents of the water. Letting that ethmoid bone rise and fall each breath you take. And how the eyebrows felt to be broadening previously. Relaxing in and around that ethmoid bone deepens that sensation. The forehead, the eyebrows broadening. Draw your awareness to the sphenoid sinuses, the deepest sinuses in the skull, from the roof of the mouth. Drawing your awareness back toward the back of the skull. There sits the sphenoid bone. And at first it feels like the sphenoid bone is stuck in mud. Regular practice, patience. You'll start to feel that same rhythmic rise, fall, the breathing in the sphenoid bone. And as that sphenoid bone regains its healthy movement, it feels like the roof of the mouth. It feels like the roof of the mouth broadens too. One of the hallmarks of health in the sinuses is a spaciousness in the skull. Spacious across the eyebrows, spacious across the cheekbones, spacious across the back of the skull, the roof of the mouth, a feeling of broadening. As many times a day as you can, taking at least a few breaths, each of the various sinuses. The frontal sinuses of the eyebrows, the maxilla sinuses of the cheekbones, the mastoid sinuses behind the ears, the ethmoid sinuses behind the bridge of the nose, the sphenoid sinuses behind the roof of the mouth. Steady breathing, letting the breathing create a rhythmic movement, felt all the way up in the skull.